Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Want to come on and give you guys a quick pregame show before the 49ers kick off this afternoon against the Carolina Panthers at 1:05 from Bank of America Stadium out in Charlotte. I'm not in Charlotte, as you can tell. I'm back home in my normal studio. Today, you've got the 49ers 2-2, looking to win back-to-back games for the first time this season, taking on Carolina. Here's the first five. I'm going to give you my five keys to victory. But before we can get into those five keys, let me give you one thing to think about today. The NFL schedule makers weren't very kind to the 49ers with this one. Monday night game in Santa Clara. Get on an airplane, travel all the way to the East Coast. Yeah, they get a little bit later start time at 1:05 instead of 10:05 or 10 o'clock. But that doesn't make that much of a difference when you consider how quick the turnaround is from Sunday to getting on that plane or Monday, to getting on the plane to fly out to Carolina on Friday afternoon. That's not easy for anybody. So one thing to think about as this game gets ready to get started is just that short week. I understand that it's the Carolina Panthers. A lot of people look at this as a game the 49ers should win going away. I'm not so sure on that one. You look at the records, 49ers at 2-2. They're only one game better than the Panthers. And then you look at it even further, and you realize that the Panthers have actually outscored the 49ers 78-71 this season. Both teams have one score on defense, so really not much difference there. You look at their total points per possession. Carolina actually has a slight edge over the 49ers in points per possession. So we'll see what happens today. I know the Carolina's got a very tough defense they're going to be taking on, but so do the 49ers. This Panthers defense is not a joke by any stretch of the imagination. They do have a few guys that are going to be banged up a little bit today. Their starting safety, one of their starting linebackers, are banged up. They were questionable coming into today, and then they also lost one of their other starting safeties. So they have a little bit of problem on the second and third levels of their defense in terms of injuries. We'll see what happens with that. But this is a team in Carolina that has a very strong defense. It's their offense that lets them down on a regular basis. Kind of a similar story to what we've seen in Santa Clara so far this year. Just want to get this thing rolling, though. Let's see what we've got. A couple of my keys for the game. Talked a little bit already talked about the short week and how tough that is. But beyond that, can the 49ers offense score over 17 points? We haven't seen it. We've seen them do it once. The 49ers have played 4 games, first month of the season. They've only been able to score more than 17 points against Seattle. They've scored 10 in weeks 1 and 3. They scored 17 last week against the Rams. It was enough to win. Might be enough to win tonight or this afternoon. But this offense definitely isn't in rhythm. There's definitely some things going on with this offense that are causing for the slow start. And it really starts with the quarterback position. You go back to week 1 in Chicago with Trey Lance. He had a touchdown to Tyler Kroft that he missed. Had a touchdown on the first drive of the second half to John Jennings in the left flat. If he throws it, doesn't, holds onto the ball and takes a sack instead. And then you go to Denver in week 3. Garoppolo has receivers running all over the field, wide open, either misses them, either doesn't throw it to them, or just throws inaccurately. So that causes them to struggle a little bit more. Last week, they have some issues in the second half down in the red zone to score a touchdown. Instead, they only get a field goal. It's been rare to see this 49ers offense be able to move the ball down the field unless they have an explosive play, a big play that kind of helps get them going. Otherwise, they struggle with moving the ball down the field. Now, obviously, the first drive of the game against the Rams is a little bit of an exception. That was a nice drive, but they still got an explosive play to get the ball into the end zone at the end of that from 32 yards out. Their other touchdown against the Rams on offense, an explosive play to Deebo Samuel. But this team, we haven't really seen them drive the ball down the field methodically and take up time of possession and just be able to get in any kind of a rhythm. They just haven't been able to, whether it's the quarterback position, missing throws, whether it's a hold or a false start, something like that. It continues to creep up with this team on offense. And so they're struggling a little bit there to get any kind of rhythm and really score points. And, this week, like I said, they're taking on a Carolina defense that allowed opponents to convert on 39.1% of their third down attempts. When you look at the teams the 49ers have faced up to this point, all of their opponents are better than that, or worse than that, other than Denver. Denver is the only team that the 49ers have faced up to this point that has been better on third down than Carolina. And we know what happened in Denver. They were 1-10, I believe, over their first 9. So that, again, 49ers offense in this game, I think, is going to have to be part of what we're looking at in terms of, are they going to be able to make the plays to get this team to win? Uh, the second part of that is the 49ers getting their running game going. You look at the 49ers running game, you look at the numbers for the season, it doesn't look bad. They've averaged 4.4 yards per rush attempt, slightly better than last season. That sounds good. But what that number doesn't show is the fall off in production since Trey Lance went down. Over the first 5 quarters of the season, first game in Chicago, the first quarter against Seattle, the 49ers offense averaged 5.7 yards per rush attempt on the ground. Even if you take out the 51-yard run by Deebo Samuel in the first quarter against Seattle, they're still at 4.7 yards per attempt. Now compare that to what's happened since Trey Lance went out with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. From that point on, at the end of the first quarter through to where they are today, the 49ers offense has averaged 3.5 yards per rush attempt. Now they've had some explosive plays, no doubt, but the down in and down out consistency hasn't been there. Injuries to Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis Price play a role in this decline in production, as do, just some lack of being able to open up holes. But I think more than anything, not having Trey Lance providing a running threat has a lot to do with it as well. Linebackers and safeties now are able to flow much more quickly to the ball. They don't have to really worry about the quarterback holding it and gouging them up the middle or to the backside or any of those types of things. They don't have that threat with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they don't even have it on the pass side either, because since Jimmy Garoppolo took over, the 49ers play action game has decreased. Trey Lance in his 5 quarters had 6 play action pass attempts. With Jimmy Garoppolo, 6, but he's also played a lot more quarters than Trey Lance did. And so you see that lack of running game, the lack of play action, all those things have started up since Jimmy Garoppolo took over. And there's some other things that play into it, like I said, but it's primarily, I think, what's happening at the quarterback position. And this week, the 49ers are going to face, again, this Carolina defense. Going to keep talking about how good this Carolina defense is. The Panthers defense has allowed only 4.1 yards per attempt on the ground. That ranks 12th best in the NFL in defense against the run. 49ers offense that struggled to run the ball consistently, facing a Panthers defense that's been very good at stopping the run. Again, I think this is one of those matchups and why I started off with the 49ers offense being able to score 17 points or more. They haven't been able to do it. So let's see if they can do that today. Number 3, will the 49ers offense be able to move the ball through the air? Again, Panthers defense been solid against the run. They've been even better against the pass. They've allowed only 5.8 net yards per pass attempt. That's 9th best in the league for this Carolina defense. Jimmy Garoppolo, you look at the 49ers overall, they've averaged 6.6. Jimmy Garoppolo has averaged almost 6.98 net yards per pass attempt since taking over. That's 7th best in the NFL. A lot of that obviously is yards after catch. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel helped that out quite a bit. That duo of Samuel and Ayuk combined for 152 receiving yards on Monday night against Los Angeles. 138 of those came after their catch. You look back at that game, Samuel had a average depth of target of 2 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 1 yard. Going to be interesting to see how that works out tonight, because Brian Burns, very good defensive end for the pass rusher for the Panthers. He's going to provide a strong test for this 49ers offensive line that doesn't have Trent Williams. How is Jalen Moore going to be able to hold up? That's going to be one of those to watch. Are the 49ers going to have to keep in George Kittle again this week like they did at times last week? Are they going to have to, or will it be fullback Kyle Juszczyk that stays in? How are they going to manage that? Well, like I said, the Panthers are going to be without their starting safety, Jeremy Chin. He's on IR. He's out. Carolina defense may also be without its 2 leading tacklers, so that'll be important. Frankie Louvu and safety Xavier Woods both are questionable for today. We'll see how they are able to play. Usually questionable means they're going to go. I'm sure we'll see them out there, but are they going to be able to be at their full strength? So you look at this and you say, okay, the 49ers offense might struggle a little bit, but the defense is going to be able to be just fine. And that might be the case. The 49ers defense has been lights out over these last 3 games. They've allowed a total of 18 points. And against Carolina, they're going to face an offense which has gained the fewest yards in the league. And a big reason for the Panthers' lack of offense, same thing as the 49ers quarterback. In his first season at Carolina, Baker Mayfield's completed less than 55% of his pass attempts. His 5.2 net yards per attempt is 28th worst in the NFL. And so, that's going to help. That should help this 49ers win this game, even if they can get the 17. Well, Mayfield has struggled So is their offensive line. They'd have allowed 11 sacks in Carolina so far through the first 4 games. And, now you've got the 49ers coming in with Nick Bosa, Samson Ebukam, and that pass rush that was able to sack Matthew Stafford 7 times just a couple days ago. They should be able to make life miserable for Mayfield today. And the bright spot for Carolina's offense, though, has been the run game. The Panthers average 4.5 yards per rush attempt, which is slightly better than the 49ers. However, here's the thing. If San Francisco continue to force 3 and outs, like they have the first couple of weeks, the Panthers won't have much opportunity to grind out the yards. Here is how offense affects defense. The 49ers, if you go back to that game against Denver 2 weeks ago, the 49ers forced, 9 3 and outs, I believe it was, against the Broncos, but they still lost. And why this running portion of it is important, why the Panthers' ability to gain 4.5 yards per rush attempt is important, is because if the 49ers offense doesn't put points on the board, doesn't force Carolina to have to pass the ball, they can stick with that run game. The Panthers, you look at their run game, they have 2 games of over 145 yards rushing, weeks 2 and 3. The other 2, they're like around 45 or 50. A lot of that is in those 2 in the middle. They're able to stick to the run. They're towards the bottom of the league in terms of attempts, but that's because their offense has been bad and their defense has been, they've fallen behind to where they have to throw. If the 49ers offense doesn't put points on the board today, Carolina can stick with the run game. And that's my concern, is that Carolina is able to be consistent on the ground, not make it where Baker Mayfield has to really make plays. Very similar to what we saw in Denver. And so that's why I go back to the offense and why the first 3 questions are about the offense, because these two are going to help each other out. If the 49ers offense can move the ball, it's going to really help the 49ers defense to be able to take advantage of Mayfield and vice versa. The last piece, real quick before I get to that, I want to say shout out to Lucas from Austria. He's a member of the Toolbox. Excuse me. That's why he's got that $ next to his name. How you doing, Lucas? Good to see you. He says, hey, Jack. Hey, how you doing, Lucas? Let's see really quick. The last one, and this one's important. Which team's going to protect the ball? I talked a lot about this last week, right? Monday night, the 49ers won the turnover battle. They turned the Rams over twice. They won the game. They're now 13-3 since the start of last season in games in which the turnover margin was either tied or favored the 49ers. On the opposite side is Carolina. Carolina's lost their turnover battle in all 3 of their losses. The one game they won the turnover battle and were able to beat up on the Saints pretty good. If the 49ers, who have a personnel advantage coming into this game, don't protect the football, though, they could see a golden opportunity to get a win on the road slip away, because Carolina isn't as bad of a team as everybody wants to believe. I understand they're 1-3. They have an offense that's been terrible, but if you turn the ball over, you lose games a lot of times in the NFL. It's very hard to win if you turn the ball over more than your opponent. It doesn't happen all that often. The 49ers don't hold on to the football today. That opens the door for Carolina to take advantage and win this thing. 49ers protect the football, move it a little bit. I think they can come out on the right side of this thing. I have the 49ers winning the game by a score of 17-12. Just looking over real quick at a couple of the comments before we shut it down and get ready for the game this afternoon. I have Cook Sports, who says Jimmy hasn't practiced all summer. He's getting into rhythm. Okay, I guess. Jimmy Garoppolo's looked just like Jimmy Garoppolo from throughout last season when he had practiced all summer. I really don't see Jimmy Garoppolo being any different than I've ever seen him play, whether he's practiced or not this year. We'll see how that works out today, though. I think Kittle has a big game with Chin out for Carolina. He could. If they don't need him to stay in and block, if they're not running a bunch of screens that require him to block on those, he could have a big game. He could take advantage of that, because remember, now Chin is out, and the linebackers, the leading linebacker, Lavu, is injured, and the other starting safety is injured as well. So that could help the 49ers out here. And George Kittle as well. Let's see. Shylock says that it's going to be 49ers 28-10. That'd be great. I'd hope to see the 49ers be able to go win this game going away. It makes it a lot easier for myself to get this right up after the game done. One other thing really quick that I haven't touched on yet is the 49ers inactives. You might have already seen this on Twitter if you're over there. No big surprises on the inactive list. We knew most of these guys were going to be inactive just because of the injury report. Eric Armstead, we knew was out. Same with Javon Kinlaw, Trent Williams, running back Ty Davis Price, Tarvarius Moore, and Tyler Croft. We knew all those guys were already inactive because they were out due to injury. The only inactive that's not due to injury for the 49ers today is Marlon Mack, which means that everybody's favorite running back, Jordan Mason, is active today. Will we see him on the field, or will he only be limited to special teams duty? It's interesting. Everybody wants to see Jordan Mason play. I think they're holding him out because I don't believe they believe in his pass protection ability. And that's a big question mark. So there you go. Those are my 5 keys to the game. The 49ers offense has got to get into a rhythm. They need to score some points today. They can't, 17 might be enough, but they're going up against a defense that's, I think, a little underrated. They're going up against a team that defense is very good. Running game is good. The quarterback really is the problem. If they can just do a good job on defense, hold on to the ball, they're going to come out of this thing with a victory. I just don't predict this to be a big blowout. The only way that I see this becoming a blowout win for the 49ers is they get a few turnovers deep in their own end, which gives short fields to the offense, those kind of things. If they can do that, I see them maybe getting up to 30. I have a hard time with this offense, seeing this offense get all of a sudden just get to 30 or more. It's just not with all the mistakes that they've made. And then you look Jalen Moore out there at left tackle. We'll see how this one goes out. But Shylock says 28-10. I've got 49ers at 17-12. It should be an interesting game. Hopefully we'll be able to come back here afterwards and talk about a 49ers victory and see them get to 3-2. I think this is a game for the 49ers. These next 2 weeks are going to tell you a lot about how good this team is or where this team is going to go this season. If they falter either today, or next week, and are at 3-3 when they come back home, I think that should be cause for concern and where this team is going to end up this season. If they can win both of these games, get to 4-2 before they head back to play Kansas City on the 23rd, I think they're in a much better position. So 2 weeks here for the 49ers. We're going to learn a lot about this team on the road today against Carolina and next week in Atlanta. Beyond that, I just want to say thanks to everybody that tuned in and is checking this out later. If you guys can do me a favor, if you guys can hit that like button for me, hit that subscribe button if you're not already a part of the if you guys can go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. When you hit that subscribe button, also please go ahead and as when you're doing that, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know that as well. I appreciate you all coming on here and checking this out today. Take care, everybody. Talk to you all soon. I'll be back after the game. But real quick, Robert wants to know, do you see Mason getting a few carries if the 49ers get up by a couple of scores? I hope so. I think he needs some carries. I think he deserves some carries. He's really good. We've seen him run the ball well throughout. So when he's gotten into games, I should say, it's hard to say throughout because it hasn't really been that so much as it's been when it comes to Jordan Mason. You watch him run the ball in the preseason, and he looked really good. You only gave him one run in Denver. He picks up 7 yards. I think the only reason Mason's not getting more carries is because of something else, and it's probably his pass blocking. His pass blocking acumen might not be exactly where the 49ers believe that it should be right now. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he gets some carries, but that's it for the show. Hit the like button, hit subscribe button, and then get yourself over to 49erspressdemocrat.com. The 49ers over there. There's the live blog is already up. Have the inactives on. I'll be putting some more information up before the game starts. But starting at 1:05, there'll be full analysis throughout the game with instant analysis and viewpoints and all those kind of things. So check it out. Talk to you all soon. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Take care.